So today I want to talk about frequency. You guys see my stick figures, but listen, I'm not an artist. I'm not really good at all the drawing stuff, but you guys get the picture, right? So this is Bob, and this is Keisha, and this is the unknown, and this space is the environment that Bob, Keisha, and unknown is in. And I'm doing this demonstration because I want to give a visual why it's important to protect your energy, why it's important to be mindful of the environment that you're in, and why it's important to make sure that you are around people who are very positive or have a positive outlook on life, or people who don't want to put negativity in the environment, right? So we have different brain frequency. You have delta, right? You have delta. I'm not going to write it down. It's too much. You have delta, you have theta, you have beta, you have gamma, and you got alpha, right? So let's say that when he is talking to her, depending on the frequency where he's at, because he can, let's say the theta wave, for an example, is how you process your emotions. So if his emotions is processed in a healthy fashion, when he's communicating to her, healthy emotions. So once this frequency goes over here and that frequency goes in her ears, what end up happening, how she's going to process that frequency from the communication from him is through neurotransmitters. So the neurotransmitters turns into liquid frequency. Actually, neurotransmitter within itself is energy, but it turns into, let's say, liquid frequency inside of the brain. It just literally turns into neurotransmitters inside of the brain, and it releases energy, and and also liquid frequency inside of the body. So your energy from the environment, as it goes into someone's body from communication, it turns into different type of frequency. However, depending on if this person have trauma, will determine how the frequency is expressed in that person's body, right? And that's why understanding frequency is important, because frequency expresses itself different based on the person's trauma. And the frequency that's we speak as I'm talking right now in my environment, all of the frequency does not go inside of this person's body to be processed and expressed inside of them while communicating. Some of the frequency stays inside of the environment. And while it stays inside of the environment, it transmute into energy. And that is energy as we know as. But remember, energy doesn't die, so it has to turn into something else. And that's what happened here. So it's all happened invisible. So remember, let's say for example, this person is vibrating on a high frequency and he's having a very intellectual conversation with her. He's using gamma frequency, right? Gamma brainwave frequency, where she's having high intellectual conversation with her, and she can pick it up. But if she's not functioning on the gamma wave frequency, she can't pick up what he is saying. She might understand it, but her body can't really process it from a neurological level because she's not functioning on that frequency, right? But he eventually she can, if he keeps educating her and she wants the knowledge, she can raise her vibration if she wants to. This has to be like a conscious decision. This cannot be a decision that he forced on her. Let's say that how he has a lot of trauma, and he's given her theta brain frequency. He has a lot of trauma, and as he communicates with her, it could be very abusive relationship, an extremely abusive relationship. Now let's say that she doesn't have any no protection against her force field. The negative frequency that he's going to transfer to her is going to go into her brain and releases neurotransmitters. And if she has a negative self-perception of who she thinks she is, then if he's saying things negative to her because he has a negative perspective of life, she's going to say, well, I'm not good enough, if that's how she's picking up what he's saying. I'm inadequate. Self-doubt. Low self-worth. She's going to start losing herself because she doesn't have a force field to protect herself against negative frequency that he is sending over to her. However, if he's sending negative frequency over to her, more than likely he has a negative force field around him, and he's projecting that onto her. But not only is he projecting that onto her, he's projecting it in every environment that he enters. Nevertheless, if he meets someone that is vibrating on a high frequency, if he send this information, let's say her, because I'm saying he, it could be a she, sending this over to someone who have a high frequency, that person's force field can reject that information because it does not go with their self-worth or who they are and what they build for themselves, because this person is functioning on a more higher frequency than this person. So it's not gonna penetrate the body the same way it would if the person does not have a good sense of self. And this can you can also see this in environment, right? We can even take this into environment. Let's say that let's think about you living in a harsh environment. You're always seeing gunshots, drugs, crackheads, I don't know, women, selling their bodies, prostitutes, all that kind of stuff. It tells the mind state and the frequency of that environment, because the people in that environment is transmuting that environment and transmuting their energy in that environment, and they're creating that force field of those negative things in that environment. They might think that's normal, right? So that's their level of consciousness, because consciousness is subjective for the person, right? So consciousness is not saying that, well, I'm vibrating on a higher level, that I'm more conscious than another person. Consciousness is subjective, because the person in that environment, they are conscious of that environment. The question is, do they think it's right or wrong? That's subjective. I might think it's wrong, but for that person, they love that environment. So they're conscious of that environment and be in their environment, even though myself or somebody else might look at it as negative. And that person might look at my environment as being bougie, and they don't want to be a part of that environment because it doesn't go with their force field of the electromagnetic frequency, brain frequency, and also electromagnetic spectrum that is being emitted in the environment does not line up with the energy that's in the environment that two people are creating with each other. It either can reject, it either can accept, or it's going to repel all in one. Or some might even leak over and create temporary self-doubt in either one of them, depending on where they're at in life.